It's good to see you today. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend and a good Lord's Day yesterday. It's Monday. Let's look to the Old Testament, think about a character from the Old Testament, and we're going to be looking at one account in the life of Saul. We're going to be looking at Saul's unlawful sacrifice, as it's usually called, in 1 Samuel chapter 13. Let's get over there together. Let's read a little bit. Remember who Saul was. Saul was the first king of Israel. And he was king of Israel because Israel had come to Samuel and said, we want to be like all the other nations, give us king. And the Lord had told him, give them what they want, so you have Saul, the man who was head and shoulders above all Israel. There's a number of things we could say about Saul, different places in his life, but I wanted to just consider this one. Verse 8, Then he waited 7 days, according to the time set by Samuel. But Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, Bring a burnt offering and peace offerings here to me. And he offered the burnt offering. Now it happened, as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering, that Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him, that he might greet him. And Saul said, What have you done? Notice what Saul says. Saul said, When I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together at Mishmash, however you pronounce that, then I said, The Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled, and offered a burnt offering. Samuel said to Saul, You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom for Israel forever, over Israel forever, but now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and we know who that is. That is David. That's going to be David. So let's talk about this unlawful sacrifice. The Philistines are gathering together because I believe, if I remember correctly, Jonathan had gone in and had attacked the Philistines, and this was the Philistines' response. So, to look at when Samuel comes on the scene, and Samuel says, What are you doing? And to look at Saul's excuses specifically. Let me put it back on the screen just for a moment. Samuel said, What have you done? Saul's first excuse, when I saw that the people were scattered from me. Okay? That idea, and I tell you what, and that's what verse 8 is talking about. He waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. You had the people were fleeing. People have left. Samuel says, Why have you done this? Why have you done this which is unlawful? God has not commanded this. Why have you done this? And Saul's first excuse is, well, the people scattered. The people scattered. How many times do preachers and churches turn away from the truth because it is not popular and people have left? People start leaving. When people start leaving in church, the first one who gets looked at, it's usually not those who left. Usually it's, well, we need to look at the preacher and we need to make sure, maybe it's the preacher's fault that they left. And it's just going by popular vote. Here Samuel says, Why have you done this? And first thing out of Saul's mouth is, well, the people have left. But then he also says, to look at the account, there in verse 11 again, Well, I saw the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed. Okay, so the people have left me. Oh, and by the way, you didn't do what you said. How many times when we sin and we try to justify it by saying, well, yeah, I did that, but I did that in response to what they did. Right? It's effectively saying, well, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, and that's justification for me not holding up my end of the bargain. You did something wrong, and that's why I did something wrong. Now, Samuel was just delayed, and we don't have time to talk about that. But that's Saul's argument. Well, you didn't come when you said you were supposed to come, and that's why I did this. You didn't do what you said, and so I did not keep the Lord's commandment. Two wrongs don't make a right, as much as we may think they do. As much as we may try to justify sin, it just doesn't work. People may leave, you do what's right. People may not hold up their end of the bargain. You do what's right. But also, well, what about the Philistines? And to look back in the account, because that's the third thing he says. Verse 11, you did not come within the days appointed, and the Philistines, they were gathered together at that place. And I said, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal. And they were gathered together, and they had their chariots, and they had those on horses, and they had all sorts of people, all sorts of soldiers on foot. And frankly, what it comes down to, here Saul is, and Saul's just scared. He's just scared. And if we would be honest with ourselves, when we think about sometimes our own sins, sometimes it's because we're scared. Think about being neglectful to speak to someone in our family. Maybe we're neglecting to tell the truth to our spouse, to our children, to our parents. Why would we neglect to tell the truth to them? It's because we're scared of what their reaction might be. Right? That's why. Think about sin in general, and just think about the idea of sometimes people sin because they're scared. What does it require? You need to have more faith. You need to trust in the Lord. You need to do what's right. I understand people have left. Okay. That's no excuse. I understand Samuel was delayed. That's still no excuse. I understand the Philistines have gathered together. That is still no excuse. Then Saul says something interesting. To look back at the account. Verse 12 says, the Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering. Therefore I felt compelled. Now I want you to see something. We're reading out of the New King James right here. To look at this passage, actually to look at that verse 12. Look at the King James. The Philistines will come down upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. I forced myself, therefore. I forced myself. New King James, I felt compelled. A sad picture. I felt compelled. Oh, you felt compelled. Saul, did anybody make you do this? Well, yeah, I forced myself. Oh, you forced yourself. Well, you felt compelled because of the circumstances. Samuel says, why have you done this? Right? You've been made king. And yes, Samuel didn't agree with them being made king, but you can tell all through it, as Samuel's dealing with Saul, it's sort of like David later on, when David says, I am not going to strike the Lord's anointed. Okay? This is Israel's king. And Samuel says, what are you doing? Well, the people have left. You didn't do what you said. The Philistines were gathered, and I felt compelled. Oh, we're going to talk about feelings now. You felt compelled. I guess he didn't fear the Lord enough or something. I felt compelled. He forced himself. No excuses. No one was responsible for this but Saul. It's a sad account. It really is a sad account, but it sets the stage for David, the man after God's own heart. That was not going to be Saul. Hope this study's been beneficial for you as we think about making applications to our own life, of course. Hope you have a good day. Appreciate you tuning in for just this little bit of our daily bread. Hope to see you tomorrow. Thanks for being with us.